Right, been over to me mate Richard's this morning, and he's very kindly hiring me his chain mortiser. I looked around at the prices of them, what they fetch new and second hand. There's nothing locally available second hand, and if you buy one new and then sell it on after a project, you're going to lose about 400 quid by the looks of the prices. So it's not a viable thing to do, and equally, you know, if you keep hold of it, you've got to store the thing, and there's just space gets a bit of a premium after a while with all the machinery you end up owning. So it was pretty cool to go back and have a look around, and nothing's changed too much there. And the guy that trained me as well still works there. Different guy running it, but the guy that trained me still works there. I ended up working for him. So it's nice to catch up, see them. Yeah, so this is a chain mortiser. It's going to be making the mortise holes in all the posts for the oak framing. So the mortise and tenons are for the braces, and the posts, like the upright posts, this will be doing all the holes that they slot into. Loads of videos on these on YouTube if you're interested. But basically you've got a chain to get different widths. This is a 16mm, like 5/8 chain. So that's what cuts the mortise, rotates in this direction. You've got a couple of offsets, so you can do it, plunge it down in the vertical position, and then to save you keep moving the machine, you can actually slide it over, plunge it down in the middle position, and then slide it right over, plunge it down over here, and as you plunge the machine, it cuts a sort of vertical mortise down at that point. Obviously, in this position, it doesn't go quite as deep as it does in this position. It's about 20mm less depth because you're pivoting about a point above the end of the blade, so it's reducing the depth of the mortise. But the depth of mortises isn't too critical for oak framing. You've got a depth stop here, so that will set how deep you're going to plunge your mortise. This lever on the side, the furthest one to the side, is your clamp lever, so that will clamp the machine to the beam, so keep pressure on it. And the second lever on the top here will slide the machine across. So I just want to fire a couple of mortises through, so I'm just going to set that down to the wood. I only want to go in about 2 inches. Fire a couple of mortises. I can work out that mortise width that the offset throws. And what I'm going to do when I do these, I want a almost 2-inch mortise hole. This is only going to do about 32mm, so I'm going to have a wooden packer that's going to sit on the face of the beam. Put that in for a start, clamp it over, do my mortises, then take the packer out and slide it in the other side of the beam, so I've not got to adjust the clamping width. It'll stay the same, but it'll slide the machine over the width of that packer, and I'm working from the same face all the while, so I can get a wider mortise that way. Not going to be this accurate, but it's just easy. With a vernier, 30.6, 30. I'll probably be knocking 1mm off that for a bit of a tolerance fit. Bearing in mind you're going to be moving this mortise, so creating quite a wide mortise with multiple setups on a piece of green oak, which will probably be dried out for 3 or 4 weeks before we get to fitting it. So you don't want to make these mortises and tenons an interference fit. You want a little bit of gap. So if I aim for that to be, if I say 29mm, then that should give me about right. So I'm effectively going to have a 45mm tenon from a 200mm wood, so that's 155 from the edge. This side's almost perfect. Slide him in. So I've done that, slip that packer out, slide the machine over, slip it in there, clamp him back up. .45.9, that 15mm was perfect. Make that a bit easier to use. I'll put some little lips on it. Beautiful, look at that. Is it going to work? So put that on there. Sticking up. So I think also what I want to do is start from the back of the mortise so that the guard doesn't end up dropping in the mortise as you move the machine back, because it's going to sort of bind up getting away. So if I always start with the packer on the back of the bit of wood and the machine fully in that position. So I've got 200mm timbers. Just do one right in the middle here. And I'm just going to come in 10mm from the edges. So I'll have 180mm mortise, and that'll give me a nice clean shoulder so you won't see down the edge of the tenon to a mortise that opens up once the timbers start to shrink. Square them lines over a little bit. Whack a couple of stop lines in. On this test cut, I'm just checking that the 0 line is going to engage with my edge of the chain. And I can also put a mark on when I do the cut over here for where it's going to line up on the mortise at that side as well, on the frame of the machine. Can move that along to the end of my tenon. Wasn't a lot of time to do any filming, but I'm on the way to do some baling now. I've got some hay to bale. My brother's ahead of me, he's already in the field and he's got the rake on, so he's putting all the hay that's spread out on the field into a nice swath for me to go and bale. To be honest, it's quite nice to be out in some nice weather. It's been terrible this year, just the weather, it's almost rained every day. And with something like hay, which we do quite a lot of hay baling, you need 4 or 5 really good hot drying days to be able to dry the grass out to bale hay, and we've just not had it this year, so it's really nice to be out. So when we get in the field, it's full concentration mode. There's a lot going on when you fire the machine up, making sure that you're doing everything right. and that everything's feeding in right. You've got bales coming out the back, it's tying the knots, just making sure you're not crashing into anything, checking the swath, potholes and stuff like that. There's a lot to take in, a lot to keep an eye on, and it's just quite a lot when you first get in the field. Once you've got the headlands off, the rounds around the outside, it's a little bit more relaxing because you've got a feel for the crop and the field you're in, and yeah, it just goes a bit easier. But that first time round is pretty exciting, and especially when you've not done a lot of it or you're new to it, it takes a day or two to get used to the sounds and the smells and the feelings, like the vibrations of the tractor and the machine that you're driving. So you've got to be pretty alert and switched on so that you don't have any problems here. So after that clip, there was loads more footage, and I've somehow deleted it, transferring it over to my Mac. So I've changed a few settings, hopefully it won't happen again. It's a new system I'm using, I'm filming on the phone, not my camera. Really happy with the quality of the video. It looks stunning in 4K, to be fair, some of them shots. So yeah, worthwhile, just a bit of a learning curve. Quite lucky this year in that I'm driving a second machine, because last year we only had one baler. And the reason for getting a second machine is we had issues with the baler. I'll take you and show you what happened actually, but we had more than one issue, had a few issues, and right when our busy sort of period of the season started. So on the top of the machine, you've got, it's called the knotter stack, so these are the bits that tie the knots around the bales. This stack of like metal discs here, these, if you're running a baler, these are pretty much what you're going to have a problem with. But there's like a 60mm shaft, steel shaft running through them that's driven on this end by, and trips as and when it needs to electronically. But last year we had a problem that sheared this shaft off in here, cracked it right in where this bearing housing is, so it's invisible. So yeah, big job, sort of like 3 or 4 days work for the mechanic at the shop to take all these knotter stacks off, get that shaft out, put a new shaft in, get parts delivered quick. got it all back together, got it tying knots. He's done about 1,000 knots with it, getting it all set up and working right. And to be fair to him, he did a bloody brilliant job of it. Got it back in the field. We did 250 bales, and then run into another issue, and it bailed all its needles. So again, quite a big breakdown. Not as big of a breakdown as the shaft going, but all our customers had basically waited for us to get this fixed. Yeah, it was going to be another couple of days to get it fixed, and the bad weather was coming. So we lost a huge amount of work right at the end of the season, which is when we're busy. And yeah, really knocked us back. Didn't earn a lot of money last year because of that problem. So yeah, decided to take the plunge and get another machine, which has been bloody costly, to be honest. But hopefully it'll cover the costs of buying the machine. With the work it's going to get, and the guaranteed income of hopefully having 2 working machines. At least one of them will cover the work that we've got to do. But slightly annoying, especially as we could do with a bit bigger tractor to power this one, because the John Deere's right on the limit really. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.